The BRICS itself is a statement of how profoundly the old order is changing. At the same time, many inequities of the past also continue. In fact, they have assumed new forms and manifestations. We see that in the access to developmental resources and modern technology and efficiencies. Let us also recognize that the benefits of globalization have been very uneven. Adding to all that, the COVID pandemic and multiple conflicts have aggravated the burdens borne by the global South. Concerns of health, food, and fuel security are particularly acute. The Summit of the Future underlined that the world is in real danger of falling significantly behind in realizing SDG targets. How do we reconcile this contradiction and ensure that the benefits of change reach those who are currently left behind? How do we create a more equitable global order? First, by strengthening and expanding platforms of an independent nature, and by widening the choices in different domains and minimizing undue reliance on those that can be leveraged. This is really where BRICS can make a difference for the global South. Second, by reforming established institutions and mechanisms, especially the UN Security Council in the permanent and the non-permanent categories. So too, the multilateral development banks, whose working procedures are just as outdated as that of the UN. India initiated an effort during its G20 presidency, and we are glad to see that Brazil is taking it forward. Third, by democratizing the global economy through creating more production hubs. The COVID experience is a sharp reminder of the need for more resilient, redundant, and shorter supply chains. For essential needs, every region legitimately aspires to create their own production capabilities. Fourth, by correcting distortions in global infrastructure that are a legacy from the colonial era. The world urgently needs more connectivity options that enhance logistics and mitigate risks. This must be a collective endeavor for common good with utmost respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty. And fifth, by sharing experiences and new initiatives. India's digital public infrastructure, its unified payment interface, the Gati Shakti infrastructure all hold a larger relevance. The International Solar Alliance, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, the Global Biofuel Alliance, Mission Life, and the International Big Cat Alliance are similarly initiatives of common interest. As a first responder, be it for natural calamities, health emergencies, or economic crisis, we seek to do our fair share. Excellencies, addressing conflicts and tensions effectively is a particular need of the day. Prime Minister Modi has emphasized that this is not an era of war. Disputes and differences must be settled by dialogue and diplomacy. Agreements, once reached, must be scrupulously respected. International law should be adhered to without exception, and there should be zero tolerance for terrorism. Excellencies, the situation in the Middle East, West Asia for us, is an understandable concern. There is a widespread anxiety that the conflict would spread further in the region. Maritime trade has also been deeply affected. The human and material consequences of further escalation are truly serious. Any approach has to be fair and durable, leading to a two-state solution. Excellencies, we meet in difficult circumstances. The world must be prepared to think afresh on long-standing challenges. Our gathering is a message that we are indeed prepared to do so. I thank you for your attention.
Большое спасибо. Индия демонстрирует уникальные
at the BRICS Summit saying that the world needs to be prepared for long-standing challenges, and India is moving ahead in that direction. He's also called for urgent UNSC reforms. Remember, Russia as well as Britain earlier had clearly said that they support a permanent seat for India at the UNSC, and Mr. S. Jaishankar making that important statement there at the BRICS Summit. Remember, Prime Minister Modi earlier had returned to New Delhi after attending the two-day summit in Russia. And well, my colleague Vishal also now joins us on the broadcast, getting us more on that. Well, the Vishal, important statement made by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar at BRICS, calling for zero tolerance to terror, and also speaking about the much needed reforms at the UNSC.
That is correct. So both these topics have dominated these discussions in the recent past, especially the UN Security Council reforms. All the big nations have been speaking for India in the recent past, including US and the UK. They've both spoken that the UNSC needs to be expanded. Right now it has only 5 countries, and that does not proportionately represent all the countries in the world. So that needs to be changed. And also zero tolerance to terror. That's another important point raised by Foreign Minister Jaishankar. And he has also highlighted how BRICS shows that how the world is changing, how a new world order is coming in, and the BRICS itself is how profoundly the world is changing. At the same time, many inequities of the past also continue. So these are statements of Mr. Jaishankar, and you remember last day PM Modi was also there, and he met with many prominent leaders, including Xi Jinping. There was a bilateral there. Many important discussions were held, such as the clashes in Galwan, the resolution that happened in the last 4 or 5 days. So all of that has been discussed, and it will be interesting to see what kind of developments go on from here.
And in that statement by Mr. S. Jaishankar, of course, as Prime Minister Modi also has been pushing for it, saying that the way that the BRICS family has expanded, it's time that the UNSC also needs to expand. And India, of course, has been asking for a permanent position in the UNSC. That's a very important message, of course, that goes out from countries from Russia and Britain. US also, as you've mentioned earlier, have been supporting India's bid for a position at the UNSC. Well, former Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, also had spoken at the World Summit. Vishal, not to forget that Britain clearly supports a permanent seat for India at the UNSC, and the support seems to be growing only.
That is correct. So, as I mentioned, from Joe Biden to David Cameron to Antony Blinken, they've all been speaking about expanding the UN Security Council, as it does not proportionately represent the countries of the world. And there are, other than India, there are other countries that also need to be added to it. Many recommendations have been made in the recent past that other than India, Italy, Brazil, and 2-3 other countries need to be immediately added to the roster of UNSC. There's no representation from Africa. That needs to be taken care of. It's one of the biggest continents in the world. So all of these contentious points have been raised in the recent past, and there have been lots of talks around India's inclusion, especially because in the recent past, India has been trying to get onto the world stage and bringing peace to many regions across the world. Efforts have been made by PM Modi and Foreign Minister Jaishankar to bring peace to a lot of regions in the world. So all of that has come into play, and the world is seeing that India needs to be included into one of the most powerful and exclusive groups in the world.
Absolutely. Well, S. Jaishankar also speaking at the BRICS Summit, saying that it's not an era of war. The situation in Middle East is understandable. But at the same time, he said that any approach leading to the two-state solution needs to be fair. Well, he's made this important statement amid the escalating situation in West Asia. And, remember, Prime Minister Modi also earlier had spoken about it during his visit to the to Russia for the BRICS Summit, and also S. Jaishankar reiterating India's stand on the West Asia situation there. All right, thank you so much, Vishal, for getting us all those details there.